Hi guys, Mookduke here, and we're back with another new Melee game. Since backing their Kickstarter months ago, White Tower Games have officially dropped their long-awaited pre-alpha for backers, and after spending my first day with it, I wanted to give my honest first impressions. If you don't know what Fiefdom is, it's an upcoming first and third-person melee slasher that shares a few similarities with the Mordhau games, but with much bigger ambitions. 100-player battles on land and sea, destructible environments, and even magic abilities. Currently, the pre-alpha showcases none of the large modes, and everything you're going to see is extremely early and will definitely be subject to change as the game improves. I'm going to try and not be too harsh, as like I said, it's a pre-alpha, it won't be the same on launch. Unlike another recently released game that shall not be named. Loading into the FFA server, which was mostly being used as a jewel yard, the first thing you're met with is a very rudimentary UI where you can select what seems to be similar to default loadouts in Mordhau. Currently, you can't customize anything about the classes, so if you want to try a different weapon, you have to spam randomize loadout to find something you like. It's fine for now, but definitely something that will be fleshed out later. Once you spawn in, I must admit the visuals genuinely caught me off guard. There is only one map right now, but it looks really good, and it immediately reminded me of Mordhau's Arena, which is one of my favorite brawl maps. Clean textures, great architecture, and some nice light shafts giving everything a warm vibe. Performance felt smooth, and honestly, the armor looks better than I expected at this stage in pre-alpha. Whatever issues I'll get into with the combat, the art direction feels very solid. If you're familiar with Mordhau, the combat will immediately be understandable to you, as the movesets are effectively the same. There are directional or bound swings, both horizontal, overhead, and underhand. Civ 2 fans will also rejoice, as the only major difference is, as well as a timed parry, there is also a held block which utilizes a separate stamina bar, allowing you to block incoming attacks, but without the ability to riposte. However, you can jab out of it. Apparently, this system will also tie into chambers later, but as that's not in the game yet, I can only speculate it will work similar to the Civ 2 perfect parry. There are already quite a lot of weapons available, even if most of them currently feel very similar in practice. There are emotes and voice lines planned, but the only ones implemented right now are weapon flourishes and this Henry Cavill style punch reload animation, which is kind of cool. But now we get into the problems. And again, this is pre-alpha, so none of this is damning, but it's worth mentioning everything purely for the sake of feedback. The biggest thing I noticed immediately was consistency with riposting and initiative. Riposts don't feel consistent at all. It's hard to fully articulate without playing it yourself, but I couldn't tell if the parry window is either really short or if somehow the held block was activating before the animation fully commits, which stops you from riposting effectively and punishing your opponent. Because riposts feel unreliable and your opponent's weapon doesn't get hit stopped, players can seemingly just combo on you forever, and it becomes very difficult to tell when it's actually your turn to swing. I've always compared melee slashers to tennis, but in Fiefdom's current state, it's more like you're playing against a broken ball machine where you have no time to hit back or start a rally. If these windows are impacting each other, I feel like the game might benefit from having held block and timed parry on separate keys. Morphs and feints exist, but the windows also feel quite small. Mix-up seems simple enough, and pressing kick mid-swing morphs into a jab animation, which is a nice new touch. I'm also wondering if the game uses static feinting, where all the mix-up or feint timings are the same. In theory, this would make it easier to punish, but again, due to held block, someone can panic parry or feint, and then instantly hold block and be able to continue the fight with no consequence. This removes risk entirely and is something which I think needs adjustment. Movement is another strange one. There seems to be an inertia system, which feels fine when moving forward, but sideways movement is like walking on mud, and the turn cap feels pretty restrictive. This ends up killing a lot of the flow you want when trying to drag or excel, and when we tried LTS, 1vx situations felt almost impossible because target switching was so limited by this. I'm not sure if this is intended to limit crazy swing manip or if the movement dampening is to keep fights centered. Either way, it limits your ability to move properly during a fight. On top of that, stamina basically didn't matter. I tried intentionally draining it, but I could keep attacking just fine, and so could my opponents. I heard that this might be intended, but when your stamina is low, you deal less damage, but I've not yet been able to confirm this. Attacks themselves are a bit of a mixed bag in terms of feedback. Kicks exist but feel slow, jabs are fine, and trading hits, which is apparently a bug, look and actually feel kind of cool. It's probably controversial, but in a way, I hope they keep this, as if two people were to stab each other and both take damage, it kind of makes more sense over having a clash. Let me know what you think. The animations look okay, and while some anims like the stab are noticeably broken right now, the rapier stance is genuinely nice. It's funny because every time I playtest one of these melee games, the first thing I do is see if you can jank the stab, and sure enough, you can just stab forever in Fiefdom, and due to the initiative problems, it's mostly unblockable. Every test, every game, the eternal stab jank meta lives on. If you're also a fan of the stab meta, why not take a stab at that subscribe button so you don't miss the next update? I'm really bad at these. To be fair to the devs, they are undergoing an animation rework that isn't finished yet, so the readability and flow of combat will almost certainly improve. But I do want to note that as I was testing or streaming, some of my opponents said that animes they saw on their end wasn't what I was seeing on mine, so that desync could also explain a lot. During my stream, I felt like I was cooking and doing quite well despite some of the quirks, but later on I relaunched the game to duel some more and I got absolutely destroyed. I'm not sure what my opponent had figured out that I hadn't, because I could barely read animations or drag attacks like they were able to. This is also where the keybind issues started. Restarting the game wiped all my binds and the menu refused to let me restore them. Trying to set them back to default wouldn't work, and I completely lost the ability to do overhead strikes because the menu refused to register my scroll wheel. Some binds were also just wrong too, like pressing A to switch weapons, which didn't do anything anyway. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to discount the developers or act like the game is supposed to be ready. I know it's a playtest, I know things will inevitably be missing, and I know the combat isn't finished. But like with every game I test, I genuinely believe if you're developing a game with real-time combat, the first thing you should lock in, before art, before maps, before anything really, is making sure the combat works well and feels good. I'm not a game developer and I 100% admire what they do, but combat mechanics are the one foundation everything else depends on and should be the first thing built and tested fully before the game is showcased. Even Mobius, flawed as it was, at least did combat first. They just showcased it too early, and to be clear, I'm not trying to compare these two games at all. Overall, I genuinely think Fiefdom has legs. The map styling looks great, the aesthetic direction is strong, and the little customization that exists is cool, even if the UI does need an overhaul. The combat foundation is familiar and has potential, and I'm excited to see how the promised magic, chambers, and large-scale battles end up integrating in the final product. If you're curious about the roadmap, check out the Discord where the devs have said what is coming up next with new weapons, clashes, and general improvements. I really think that if the combat is ironed out slightly with better hit feedback and reliable riposting, this game could easily rival both Chivalry and Mordhau for the new age. If you want to try it yourself, you can still late back the game at tier 3 or above, although it might be worth waiting until more systems and content are added. Totally up to you, but I'm curious to see where it goes from here, and I'll definitely try covering updates as they roll out. Let me know in the comments if you played Fiefdom or if you're excited to play it. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and dropping this video a like. It really helps support the channel. I hope to see you all on the battlefield one day rocking that Solma gear. Until then, thanks for watching, take care, and keep mooking them dudes.